Hello, welcome to The Truth. I'm Professor Margaret Rogers Van Coops. I'm also a doctor of integrated and alternative medicine. I've got quite a large background of training from nursing to psychology to psychiatry, and the list goes on. But my metaphysical training through my spirit guides, guardian angels throughout my life has been beyond anything that anyone would be able to share with me here in this world. So I'm very grateful to my spirit guides. And right now they are asking me to keep doing this half-hour show, which is all about the now. And when I'm talking about the now, the truth about what is happening around us. We may listen to the news many, many times, and we may say all the time that we know what's going on. But the truth is, we know nothing. The instinct, the intuition, the psychic ability itself is probably going to give you more of the truth than something you hear on the news. I always have said throughout my life that hearsay is something that you take a note of and then forget it. And if in the weeks following it comes up again, then give it a second thought, do a bit more investigation, and then go on to either lose it or use it. Okay, so what am I talking about here? I'm talking about our perceptives of all the things that have been going on across the world, and try and put it together for you in such a way that it makes some sense, gives you an inspiration to start thinking about how you can, in some way, help to make the changes that need to happen on this planet. So I'm me talking right now, and it may be me all the way through, but sometimes my spirit guides kick in, and when they do, you'll hear my voice changes somewhat. But for now, I'm not hearing them. I'm not getting anybody coming close to me. So this may be just me. All right. So what am I going to talk about? The vibrations of the earth, first of all. When you think about astrology, you may not know too much about it. And you probably read your sun sign and think, aha, that's a lot of insight, helps me today. But actually, it's a very, very small, tiny, tiddly little bit about you. But what you can know is that emotionally, mentally, and physically, you do feel a response to the planets as they move across the skies. And right now, we're all feeling this because the Earth is feeling it. So, what we are saying here basically is that you need to understand that the Earth itself is tired, is exhausted, it's worn out, just the way that you are. It's tired of fighting to stay alive, to stay healthy, to keep the vibration of the planet working in the way that it's meant to. Now, that's not to say that it's all serene and peaceful and wonderful. The Earth has a molten core, and that molten core is, in a way, its heart. So when it beats, when it works, when the energy flows, there are times, just like you in your body, when you get too much gas and you need to let it go. So in the same way, Earth has to do that, and up comes the volcanic eruptions, which we're seeing right now. At the same time, when those eruptions occur, there is a physical phenomenon within the Earth itself as the vibrations of that explosion bring on, shall we say, a shaking modality that in some way allows the Earth to have new energy stirring within the crust of the Earth. And that crust, of course, is a part that we work on, we walk on, we talk on, we take for granted. But what we have to realize is that if we don't appreciate that crust, if we don't look after it in the right way, which means, for example, the natural ways that the earth works with weather. And so we've also seen a lot of changes in the weather here. We've seen a lot of storms. We've seen more and more ocean type typhoons coming at us, hurricanes coming at us. You had fire burning the land, which shouldn't have happened, but it did. Why? Because the earth was not getting enough moisture. It's not getting enough of all the things that it needs to balance. So let's think about this. Earth, the soil, it needs what rain to make it heavier and to make it have more a solid effect on the weight of the crust. And then when you think about the little things that grow in it and live in it, they need to do their part by eating and nibbling and wasting, which puts food into the plant and which also puts liquids down into the crust. So we don't think about a little mouse doing its pee-pee, but we need to understand that's valuable to the earth. Now let's go to, shall we say, ants, a whole nest of them, all doing their own thing, all organized. And then comes the rain, and their whole home is flooded out, and they have to move real quick and go to higher ground and hopefully survive. Well, of course, in the rush to leave, a lot may die, but those who live go on to rebuild a new home, somewhere a little bit safer. Well, we are no different, are we? When the floods come and your house is gone, you may cry, you may say, all my things are lost. But the next thing that happens is you kick in and you say, I have to find my new ground. I have to find my new space. I have to begin again. And so a lot of people are doing that right now. In Maui, the fire, all the bad things that happened there. And when you think about all the other countries, for example, even war countries, I won't bother to mention them all. I'm sure a lot of you watch the news and you know exactly what is happening. But more importantly, what I want to talk about is what's happening to those people who are dealing with all these sudden issues. For example, flooding, and you have to run for higher ground, and maybe you can't swim, and the fear is in your soul, and you cling to whatever is possible to hold on to help you climb that mountain and get to safety. And if it isn't that, you carried on downstream, maybe bump your head and get lots of bruises, but miracle of miracle, you get washed up somewhere where you can hold on to a tree until the water subsides and you're safe. But then again, there are a lot of people who don't make it. They have to pass on into the oneness. And you might say, well, how bad is that? But we would say to you, how wonderful is that? Because when someone passes over from the pain and sufferings of the world, they bring into the spiritual world a question mark. How can we help those who are still behind on earth? And because they've been through the trauma of death, through some kind of disturbance of the earth, have arrived in the spirit world with a consciousness of we have to improve this world. We have to make it a better place for us to live in the future. Well, let's go back a few thousand years. Let's go back, shall we say, to the Egyptian period. Well, once upon a time, Egypt wasn't what you all think it was. It was a very, very lush land. There was lots of grass, lots of animals there. How do you think they knew about lions? Not because someone brought them to them, but because they actually roamed in the lands of what is Egypt. But when you look at it today, it's just dirt, it's just sand. There's the Great Pyramid. Everybody speculates on who built it and how it was built. Well, while all that was going on, I'm listening to spirit guides, and they were telling me that underneath the Great Pyramid is another great room. It's standing on another great block. And in there is all the equipment that is so far advanced from our times now that you would look at it and say, oh, there's a screen like we've got on our TVs or our computers. I have been out of body to one of these places deep in the ocean. You can read about that in my book, My Journey into the Oneness. But when I got down there and wriggled my way up through the cracks to get into this cave, what happened was a light came on the screens came on and it said, "Welcome, Margaret." And I thought, how does it even know me? I didn't even know I was coming here. And as I looked at it, all these screens kicked in and showed me numbers, writings that I couldn't read because they were something from another time. And as I looked at it all and stood there looking, I knew that that was there from ancient times, that I'd once been an ancient one. But I had no proof. Of course, I told my mother everything. My mother always said, "You have a vivid imagination." And the years went by and I kept it to myself until I met George Norrie, and I told him quite a bit about the pyramids and the Sphinx and how it was all underwater and so on. And just recently, some scientists have been out there, and some acquaintances I know, who have proved the point that the Sphinx was rained on. But more importantly, it had an ocean washing on it. So when did we shift? When did that earth shift? Why did it shift? Well, it's the same reason that we're approaching right now. The world is not in balance. When it's not in balance, and when the uniform of all that is out there goes out of balance too, there is a conflict of energy. I'll explain with my hands. If I bring my hands together like this and fit my fingers together, I have a natural way of holding it. If I open up my hands and I do the opposite and put my fingers in a different place, I have a different relation. My hand is over the top or my hand is over the top. There's a difference. Now that's a simple thing, okay? And that is what the earth does constantly throughout eons of time, constantly shuffling, changing the things to get my fingers the right way, and doing this, and always resurfacing, rebalancing what we walk on, which is the crust of the earth. But now, because we've cut down all the trees, because we've put all the plastic in the ocean and anywhere else that we want to do with it in any country buried, the water can't drip through. The energy of the gases that should come up from the deep levels of the earth can't get through. And so the earth is blocked like this. There's no opening. And as there's no opening, there's a forcing of energy, pushing up like this to make a change in the world. Now, I always speak simply because I think when we use long words and try and get people to understand, it's like, I can't take that in. I know I was like that because I'm dyslexic. But when someone says the grass can't grow more than 2 inches now, and it used to grow 20 inches, you start to think, I know the difference. And I know that if there's 20 inches of grass cut down to 2, that's poor soil. That's not a good place to plant my potatoes. But I have to plant my potatoes anyway because everybody wants some potatoes. So where am I going to get the water from? Well, please God, let it rain. But why isn't it raining? Because the earth in itself is like a sponge. It contracts and it expresses. It contracts and it expresses. Guess who else does that? You do. Your aura contracts when you feel unsafe, insecure, worried, anxiety. And then when you get an opportunity, oh, okay, a breath of life, and I want this. And I'll integrate with this. And I'll work with this. And I'll make it work for me. And I feel busy. The earth's no different. It needs that interaction of the weather. It needs that interaction of earth, air, fire, and water. And it needs nature to move it. And what is nature? Us, the animals, the ants, the little critters that crawl around that you probably don't even know exist in different parts of the world. Every animal, every being, every insect has a job. And that job is to live productively in a way where every part of whatever they use is used well. and that every part that is not wanted, that is now waste, to be sent back into the earth to create more nitrates, to create more gases, to allow the earth to breathe. What are we putting into the earth? Plastic. How can anyone breathe through plastic? Have you ever tried to breathe through plastic? Dead. So everything that we have put in the ocean is killing our fish, our sharks. Right? You might not like sharks. I don't like sharks. But they're essential to the equilibrium of balance of nature. Just the same as when we got COVID. Everybody was so scared of having COVID. I wasn't. Did I catch it? Yes, very vaguely, at a time when everybody was dying. What did it do? It attacked my brain. I spent time working on my nervous system, dumping my history, my neural history of how I believed, how I thought, what I talked about, what I taught to me and to the rest of the world. And as I lay there in meditation, letting go of my fear, my pain, my anger and guilt, I could feel my body blooming. There was strength returning. I was healing. So let me come into everyone who's watching this now and say, are you suffering? Have you got headaches, eye aches, nose aches, ear aches, mouth aches? Well, this is your throat chakra. And right now, everything you talk about, if it's negative, is affecting your entire body. And your poor body is sore. It's gaseous. It's burning hot. It's freezing cold. It's agitated, just like the earth. So you know by your own body just how much the earth is suffering. All right, it can't cry out to you. It can't say in a voice to you, save me, take care of me, love me, nurture me and honor me. But you can. You can say that to yourself, to give that to yourself. You can say that to give it to your family, your children. You can even give it to your dog and cat, or your tortoise, or your mice in a cage. But do you say it to a tree? Do you go out and say, I love you, tree. Thank you and blessings for the fruit you give me, the flowers you give me. Do you say to the grass, thank you for being so soft that I can walk on you barefoot? Do you go to the ocean and breathe in that beautiful negative ions that refresh your body? Negative ions are called that because nothing sticks to that little tiny ion. Positive ones, they got all sorts of glue on them. And you breathe those in, and yes, there's some viruses on there, there's some germs on there. And if you're not healthy, if like the earth, it's not healthy, everything goes wrong. You get ill, you get sick, you feel frustrated, life isn't working properly. So where are we at now? We're at that point where we've seen so much destruction. We've seen in different countries over the last 5 or 6 years, we've seen dams break and flood land and kill a lot of people. We've seen more fires than we really care to remember. We've seen more volcanic eruptions in different countries. We've seen the rain and weather change. Countries that don't get snow have had it, and countries that do get snow haven't had it. Isn't that saying something? Look at the North and South poles, they're melting. Are you scared? Are you frightened of change? Are you excited? Personally, I want to see change. When I say I'm excited, I'm excited to think that humans will be excited to make changes. Why do we need plastic containers for our food? I was a war baby. Everything was wrapped in newspaper paper. Now today we don't have newspapers, we have computer screens, so we don't have something there to take and wrap things up in. But we could so easily go back to using different materials not from trees, but that can be made in similar ways and that we could use. Now stop and think about something, one of the big companies, let's take Amazon. Every day, thousands of people all over the world, depending on their language, can read Amazon. And each one of those companies is sending out loads of stuff in boxes, in plastic bags. Surely there must be something else that someone could invent. I'm not the one to say what it is. That's not my journey. But there are some children born today that are already saying we have to clear up the earth. We have to use different ways to market our products. We have to have different needs in different countries. So why do we need to mix our foods? If we're American, then why do we have to have Chinese food brought from China? Why can't we grow the Chinese food here? Well, of course, some people do, but not enough. Supply and demand. So import, export has been the main thing ever since World War II. And because we have import and export, we have people who can manipulate how much it costs. Oh, there's the cost of the aeroplane. Oh, there's the cost of getting it out of the field. Oh, there's the cost of this and that. But this country, we don't care about them. We'll just give them cents on the dollar. And then when we get it over here, we'll put the price up. Is that fair? Is that going to help the earth heal? Is that going to help the country heal itself? Over the years, I've spent a lot of time in different countries. I've watched India, I've watched Egypt, I've watched Peru, just to name a few short countries, and I've watched the West. And in all cases, I've seen waste. I've seen abuse. I've seen misuse. I could list everything, but that's not the point. My point here with this show is it's called The Truth. And the truth is that each one of us must take a look at our own garbage. What we buy, what we waste. How many plastic bags do we get when we go shopping? I admit I'm one of the world's worst. I always forget to take into the store my material bags. Every time I say, oh dear, I forgot. And as I'm giving this story, I'm telling you, I'm going to make a point of putting those bags on my seat where I sit and get in and out. And that way I won't forget them, because I've done that with other things. Know what works for you. Know what you can do to remind yourself to, in some way, be convivial to the needs of your country. And in some way, give back to your country. Moaning and groaning, arguing, yelling, screaming, blaming, feeling suicidal does not change it. What changes it is your willing power to get off your backside and go out into the field and help the farmer grow the seeds into plants that we can eat. I know you'll say, but there's no water. But you see, given time, diligence, inspiration, and the new generations coming in, they will work out how to do this. They will know spiritually what is the right thing to do. So on that note, I'm saying to you, thank you for listening to me, having a bit of a grouch about why we are not repairing this earth. Ask yourself, are you ready to do your bit to repair the earth? My bit is to teach you to repair it. So on that note, I want to say thank you so much for listening today, and please share this across the globe so that hopefully my words will help a few other people in another country that you may never know, but whom you've helped because you shared this video. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.